Why are houses so unaffordable now? It's weird to me, and I've been thinking about this. Like, it's not just because the interest rates. I get it, the interest rates being high for sure, but but still the prices of homes have gone through the roof, even with the interest rates going up. I get the affordability on interest rates, but the prices of homes you would think would be going down because their lack of affordability. They are going down a little bit, but they're still well above what we'd expect. I mean, anytime you have an increase in cost, generally means you'd have a decrease in price at some point to get equilibrium. We're not seeing that. The prices are still going up. So I'm reading this very interesting report here from 1960, right? And this, see, I love this old historical data from the U.S. government. The 1960 census of housing marks the third decennial census of housing in the U.S. Very interesting. And there's lots of stuff I want to chat on this, which we won't talk to about too much. But a couple things that just jumped out real quick. I found this very interesting. This right here is this has nothing to do with the housing, but just right here. The top 50 cities in the U.S. in terms of population. Baltimore was number 6. Cleveland was number 8. St. Louis and Milwaukee were 10 and 11 respectively. Baltimore, number 6. Cleveland, number 8. St. Louis now is less than Chattanooga. And I don't even think Chattanooga was on the top 50 back then. Yeah, I don't see it. Isn't that crazy? And then watch the population. How look, it's Los Angeles went up by 25% in 1950 to 1960, 31% the decade before that. Houston, 57 to 55. St. Louis was down 12%. New York was down 1. Detroit was down 9.7. Look at this right here. Dallas was up 56 on top of 47. Here, right here, San Antonio. Here, right here, San Diego, 71 and 64% respectively. Seattle, you can see is massive moving to the south and the west. Memphis, Denver, Atlanta. Look at that, man. It's crazy. Phoenix was up 311%. It's crazy. Now, Phoenix is number 29 back then at only 439,000 people. Now Phoenix is like the 6th largest city in the United States. So I want to show you guys something here. I go to the next page. Hang tight. This is page. One second. This is interesting. Prior to 1940, the white population grew faster than the non-white population. From 1940 to 1960, the situation was reversed. The non-white population grew faster than the white population. The lowering of mortality combined with higher birth rates among the non-whites were paramount among the reasons for the increased growth of non-white population. I just thought that was interesting because I was listening to some guy post about immigration. He goes, if you want people to, they say, illegal immigrants are breaking into our country, cooking our food, mowing our lawns, and raising our kids. I said, yeah, if you don't want immigration, raise your own kids, mow your own lawn, and cook your own food. It's that simple. And I just thought that was interesting. It had nothing to do with this topic, but I just thought I'd share it with you. So 32.8 million housing units were occupied by their owners in 1960, representing 62% of all occupied units. The numerical gain of 9.2 million over the 23.6 million in 1950 was the largest for any decade. I mean, we're just, so basically 20 years previously, less than 50%, about 48.6, I think is what it was, actually owned their homes in 1940. And then in 1960, 62% of the people did. Isn't that crazy? In fact, yeah, they go into the next chapter. They say it right here. Right here. Homeownership was at the high of 48% back in 1890, but it went down to 46% in 1920. The rate increased during the 20s, and by 1930 had regained its 1890 level. After affected by the Great Depression, homeownership dropped to a low of 44% in 1940. The rise in income in the 40s and 50s, the high rate of new construction, and liberalized home financing, i.e. extended mortgages. Remember, back then you can only get a 5-year mortgage. It's crazy. It's pretty interesting because you know how they always say the Northeast is all the smarty pants and they're the least racist and whatnot. The North Central region was 67% had the highest rate of homeownership, whereas the Northeast with 56% had the lowest rate. Interesting. The South was the second largest. Interesting. Remember, the South is always bad and the North is always good. Then we go down here right quick. All occupied units, 53 million. That's the number of households out there. 53 million. 62% were homeowners. Look at that. 53 million. Isn't that crazy? All right, so I want to show you something here. We're going to go over here to the Federal Reserve Board. And we're going to, let me pause that real quick. So I took my little, because I still like to use a paper and a pad, or paper and a pencil, or pen, I should say. So I want to share with you something. From the year 2000 This is total housing units in the U.S. What are you doing, baby? So right now we have 146 million housing units in the United States. 146 million. In 1960, we had 58 million housing units in 1960. This chart doesn't go back to 1960, but we're using this old data from the U.S. Census. So we had 58 million housing units in 1960. Now we have 146 million housing units. In 1960, we had a population of 180 million in the U.S. Now we got 335 million in the U.S. All right. So what happened was we had 3.1 people for every one housing unit. Now we have only 2.31 people for every one housing unit. So you can see a consistent drop, 3.1, 2.4, 2.3, 2.31. A consistent drop of the number of people per housing unit. And that doesn't make sense when you factor in the unaffordability of the housing, because again, as the supply increases and the demand decreases, supply increases, demand increases, I got something in my eyes, driving me crazy. Supply increases, demand decreases because we have literally 33% less people in the searching for a house relative to how many's out there. So that's less demand. You got more people, but relative to the number of housing units available, there's significantly less people per housing unit. Thus, that is a decrease in demand. On top of that, you got an increase in supply. That should mean the prices are going down. And they're just not. It's crazy, man. So we had two from right here. From 1960 to 2023, the number of housing units grew at 1.5% a year, whereas the population only grew by 0.99. From 2001 to 2023, the population grew by 0.71%, whereas the housing grew by 0.94. So it's not like the housing units aren't increasing. It's not like, look, they are increasing. I mean, you can see right here. It's not like they're not increasing. I mean, they're not building as much as they do. Let me show you what I'm talking about. New homes being built, and you can see the massive drop-off because of the planned DMIC, and you can see we're right here. It's still not back to where it was in 1995, but it's not like these. I mean, because we grew so much right here, if that makes sense. We grew so, and not say exponentially, but significant increase, and it just fell off a cliff. But we're still growing, and these houses aren't like they're dead in the water. I mean, so the new housing starts, they're way down. They're not as high as they were in 1995, but still. It's not like these other houses are not occupied. They are occupied by somebody. Our house was built in 2011. Our house that we bought in Phoenix, Arizona was built in 1998. Someone's living there right now. The house that we lived in Dayton, Virginia was built in 1954, and we sold that in 2008. Anyway, so you can see right here. So while it hasn't gone back to where it was here, here's 1995 at 1.053 million units, and here we are at 1.035 million units. So we're still below where we were in 1995, but it's not like we're not building at all. And I just showed you the number of housing, the total housing units. That was just single family. The total housing units is still growing significantly higher, 50% more than the population size. So what is this? What is causing the unaffordability? It's not just the interest rates. I'm just telling you, it's not. Because the interest rates, that would reduce the demand, and what would that do? If the demand gets dropped, that would decrease prices. Now we're seeing it. I'm telling you. In fact, I think the Fed even talks about that. Let's take a look. Yeah, we're seeing a small decline, not much. Now we obviously want to log this. So this looks like a huge jump, and it is. It's a big jump nonetheless. But we want to log that, so format it to show what it actually looks like in terms of reality. It's not. Yeah, there it is. Not. I mean, it's a big jump, but not nearly as big as what the previous database the graph showed. So I'm just at a loss, man. I mean, you got massive housing growth significant housing growth over basically the last 25 years relative to population size. All right, you got low interest rates for many, many years. Now the interest rates are high. I grant you, again, that decreases affordability without question. But when high interest rates come in and it reduces the demand, you would think, then because a lot of people can't afford a house right now, so they're like, I'm not even in the market for looking right now. Would that not decrease the price? It's just not. It's so weird. And again, I get it. People are not selling. I get all that. They're like, I'm not going to sell. I'm not going to sell. But I mean, just Why now? I don't understand. It's very strange to me. But anyway, love to hear your thoughts. It's a good stuff. I love reading these old census stuff, and I mean, you get just so much. And this is just from the BLS right here. There's just so many papers you can read from, BL. And this isn't from the BLS. It's from the Census Bureau. But man, if you like history and you like data, the federal government, the U.S. federal government has more history and data than anything in the world. It's fantastic, except probably the Library of Alexandria in Egypt that just magically burned down. Crazy. Crazy. How did that happen? It's kind of weird. The Vatican probably has something to do with it. All right, God bless. We'll see you.